When he was vice mayor, Maynard Jackson marched with striking city sanitation workers in the face of intransigence by the then mayor Sam Missel. In 1976, members of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, went out on strike against his administration. The mayor not only wouldn't budge on the issues, but also fired those on strike. The strike was resolved, but organized labor never forgot Jackson's stand. Throughout his administration, Jackson fought and beat the Teamsters Union effort to unionize the police bureau. In February of 1979, some police officers launched an ill-fated sick-out in an effort to get better pay. There were suspensions, but also promises that everything would be done to increase police pay. They are promises that were filled in part, but not in whole, and they are promises that will not be forgotten when a new mayor takes office.
The philosophy of Maynard Jackson was to undo the past injustices heaped on blacks in this city, and that included the restructuring of the police bureau hierarchy. As black officers had sued the city under the Missel administration for discrimination in hiring and promoting, now white officers were leveling the same charges against the Jackson administration.
No police officer could be permanently hired or promoted while the matter languished in federal court for 6 years. Then in November of 1979, Judge Charles Moy came up with a solution that allowed hiring and promoting. It is a solution that could easily crumble. It remains a challenge for the next administration. One way Maynard Jackson sought to address discrimination in the police bureau, as well as a steadily increasing crime rate, was to bring in his friend from college to become Atlanta's first public safety commissioner. Reginald Eaves soon found himself in the middle of controversy after controversy. It began with accusations of reverse discrimination from white officers and ended with the brutal police cheating scandal in 1978. An independent investigation dumped responsibility for the scandal on the commissioner's desk. Though the mayor went on television to calm the city, the uproar continued until Eaves resigned. The politics of the police bureau were exposed for all Atlanta to see, and along with it the tacit admission that politics and police are inseparable in a big city and play no favorites when it comes to mayors and administrations. Some would call Jackson's first attempt to diffuse those two explosive issues, crime and discrimination in the police bureau, a failure, ending with the resignation of Eaves. But his second attempt drew support from a cross-section of the community. Dr. Lee P. Brown, whose career in law enforcement was buttressed by sparkling academic credentials, came to town as the knight in shining armor. He was to pull the police bureau together, and in doing so, pull together a city shaken by scandal. Brown's effort was obscured by a homicide epidemic in 1979 and the tragedy of the missing and murdered children, a tragedy that exploded for all the world to see, a tragedy that could happen anywhere, and one that could happen again here. During the Jackson administration, we saw the opening of part of the world's newest rapid rail system in July of 1979, with another stretch opening 6 months later. But all was not ribbon-cutting and celebration. Just 1 year after MARTA's East Line opened, the city and MARTA were in court over MARTA's attempt to raise fares from a quarter to 50 cents. The increase eventually went through, but not before Mayor Jackson accused MARTA of breaking its promise to the people. The next administration will have a relationship with MARTA that must confront both expanding routes and expanding fares. Perhaps the most obvious example of expansion is the new Hartsfield terminal complex, the largest in the world. Besides being a modern and efficient facility, Hartsfield represents a pledge come true. Despite the grave doubts of naysayers, Hartsfield was completed on time and for the most part within budget. And nowhere has a major project been undertaken with as much minority participation as the Midfield Terminal project. Affirmative action has been a priority in Maynard Jackson's administration. Will it be a priority with his successor? Mayor Jackson had his share of downtown development during his term. During the mid-'70s, there was a hotel boom. The World Congress Center gave Atlanta the major convention facility it needed. The giant corporation of Georgia Pacific decided to move its headquarters from Oregon to Atlanta. There was a move to revitalize some of the in-town residential areas. But Jackson's pet development project was Bedford Pines. He saw it as the future of the city, a self-contained community, integrated racially and economically, funded by government and private money. But the plot of land sat vacant for years as neighborhood groups and government officials played tug-of-war. Only recently has Bedford Pines development gotten underway. The most dynamic mayor in the world can also be the most ineffective one if he or she cannot work together with the lawmakers at City Hall or those across the street in the General Assembly.
Mayor Jackson's relationship with the Atlanta City Council and with the Georgia State Legislature was at times shaky at best.
His effort to gain an extra % sales tax was blown to bits in the General Assembly, as were his attempts to get a hotel-motel tax, handgun legislation, a mixed drinks tax, and parimutuel betting. The legislature did, however, grant expansion of the World Congress Center, a move that will ensure Atlanta's ascension in the rankings of convention centers. Jackson's dealings with the Atlanta City Council were no less rocky. He was thrown out of the council chambers, unable to read his State of the City message in January of 1980, because he had incurred the wrath of one council member. He was challenged throughout his term as he attempted to reorganize the executive branch of government.
Mayor Jackson points with pride to the free jazz festival he started, to the symphony in the park and the climate for the arts that he created, and the increased opportunities for women in his administration. Those who chronicle his 8 years may choose to cite other things, but for better or worse, Maynard Holbrook Jackson leaves his successor a tough act to follow. On special assignment, Marc Pickard, Action News.